Since the 2011 release of 3ds Max, users have had the opportunity to choose between two different interface designs when building skins for their scenes. Max's Paint Shop, officially referred to as the Material Editor, comes in two flavors. Something called the Compact Material Editor, and another known as the Slate Material Editor. The compact version of the editor has been pretty much around since the beginning. When 3ds Max broke away from the DOS operating system, deciding to instead take its brand of 3D animation to the Windows platform, the Compact Material Editor was there since day one. And most would say that it's still, to this day, the preferred choice when building and editing the majority of skins for a project. Its build is basically, well, compact, providing a very straightforward way of adding the necessary surface attributes to a material in order to make it look as realistic as possible. It's accessed by either heading to the right-hand side of the toolbar, clicking on the fourth button in, or by simply tapping the M key on your keyboard. Its design is both clean and easy to navigate, giving you pretty much everything you need in order to build a realistic skin. Because of that, and also taking into consideration the fundamental nature of this title, we'll be using the compact version of the Material Editor throughout our training. The subject of constructing a material, though, just wouldn't be complete without at least an introduction to its more comprehensive counterpart, the Slate Material Editor. The Slate Editor represents a more detailed and in-depth way of constructing a skin, working off more of a node-based paradigm where different surface attributes are wired into a material using a standard drag-and-drop technique. Accessing is done pretty much the same way as with the Compact Editor. The Material Editor toolbar icon, which used to be just a single command, is now reconfigured as a flyout, offering both editor options when the button is held down. The top button represents the Compact Editor, while the bottom button will open up the Slate Editor. The Slate Material Editor can also be opened up using the M keyboard shortcut. The determining factor on just exactly which of the two editors opens when typing M being determined by which of the two icons is currently listed on the toolbar. If you use then close the Compact Editor, clicking on the toolbar icon will reopen it. If you instead have been using the Slate Editor and close it up, then it will be the one that reopens when the toolbar icon is accessed. Holding down on the Material Editor icon, let's go ahead and open the Slate Material Editor. Once one of the two interfaces has been opened, you can easily switch from one to the other using the Modes pull-down menu in the upper left-hand corner. Here we'll change back to the Compact Editor, then back to using the Slate. As far as the layout of the Slate window, the editor is divided into three primary areas. On the left-hand side, you have your Material Map browser. It, in essence, is where you go to browse for a particular material or map. When you find the one you want to use, you'll simply drag it into the middle window. Let's do that with a standard material. The middle area of the interface holds what is referred to as the View or View window. This is where you'll be building or wiring your shader together. Using the browser on the left, let's drop down to the maps locating the checker map. When you find it, we'll drag it into the middle window, connecting it to the diffuse node. It'll be the maps from the browser that you drag onto your base material that'll determine the overall look of the skin that you're creating. To get a larger viewing picture of our material, let's simply double-click on the checkered ball. Over on the right, you have the Parameter Editor. This area will list the controls and settings that can be edited on both your material and your maps. To access the controls for our checker map, we'll go back to the middle window, double-clicking on its entry. Having its controls now available on the right, let's change its tiling to 5 and 5. We'll also drop down to its color swatches, switching those to red and blue. Wanting to head back to the base controls on our material, we'll double-click in the middle window where it says Standard. Back on the right, we can now adjust the shiny highlights. For this example, I'll take my specular level to 50 and my glossiness to 25. If we no longer want the parameter editor visible, we can simply click on the X in its upper right-hand corner. To apply a skin, you simply drag the wire directly onto the object in the scene. Wanting the material's design to be visible in our viewport, I'll go back to the name standard, right-click, then from the list about halfway down, choose Show Shaded Material in Viewport. Once we've done that, we'll go ahead and render, heading back to the Interface toolbar, clicking on Render Production. And you just keep adding whatever designs or patterns you want to build in your material tree. Let's say, for an example, that I wanted to add a bumpy texture to the surface. Using the browser on the left-hand side, I'll drop down in the noise map, then drag it into the window, connecting it to the bump channel. To open up its settings, I'll simply double-click on that node entry. Now, using the parameter controls on the right, I'll change the type of noise to turbulence and the size to 10. With those numbers in place, I'll render again. And you just keep going back and forth until you get the specific look you're wanting. Closing the render, I'll change the size of my noise to 5, and the amount of my bump I'll take up to 45. If I then want to change the level of shininess, well, again, I can do that back in the right-hand column. I'll take the specular level to 35 and the glossiness to 20. If you ever find yourself using a map that you'd like to remove, you can simply select its node in the window and hit Delete. Clearing off that diffuse channel will now enable me to load another map. This time I'll add a splat map. On my splat map settings in the parameter editor, I'll change the top color swatch to dark gray, and I'll move the threshold to 0.3. Once done, I'll go ahead and render again. So there you go with a little comparison between the two material editors in 3ds Max. As you get more experience, you'll no doubt start to gravitate more toward one than the other. Because they're both jam-packed with so many bells and whistles, just set out to choose the one that you feel most comfortable in using. You can always switch back and forth in whatever fashion best fits your production workflow.